Macho Man Randy Savage. How was he?
Just the greatest. I mean, really the greatest. The first time we met, he said, if you need to make fun of anybody, feel free to make fun of me. He said, I can take it. I can dish it out, but I can take it. And so I always felt I was respected by him. I respected him. I mean, I loved him. I thought he was just a great, great guy. And when the cameras came down, he'd stay a little bit in character, but when you got him in a quiet room and you actually talked to him, it's so weird. He's like almost gentle. You know what I mean? He's for that tough exterior, and he was just a really kind gentleman, and just loved what he did and embraced it and gave 110%. Really did give 110%.
So you were at SummerSlam '91, where Macho Man and Elizabeth got married. So were you a fan at all, or really just your son's a fan? You never really were a fan, period.
Just my son, really. And I thought, one of the other ways that Vince got back at me to do for doing the impression was they were doing something at the Garden. And so I got my son, and he invited some of his friends. He was in middle school, I guess, at the time. I rented a limo. We took a limo into the city, and I just knew we were going to be sitting ringside, And we get our seats, and we're sitting 2 rows from the ceiling, Madison Square Garden. And I was on. He can't do this to me. It's in front of my kid, and he told all his friends. And so I went down to the dressing room, and I said, Vince, what's the story? He says, well, we're going to announce you. We're going to introduce you, and you're going to come down to the ring and interview Harvey Whippleman and Giant Gonzalez. But we want to watch the walk of shame with the spotlight and follow you all the way down from the top. So it was like going to be a bit. And okay, fine. Said, but you got to let my kids come backstage afterwards. I mean, yeah. So I don't go back to the seats, but they introduce me, and I go out and I do the interview in the ring with Giant Gonzalez, and Harvey's really busted on New Yorkers and how they're dirty and filthy and disgusting and awful people. And I'm trying to gain followers, after trying to hush the boos I was getting by saying New York is the center of the universe and it's the greatest city in the world. And I said something about Giant Gonzalez and how, the fur, the furry cut, whatever it was. I made some comment about the cut. And he gave me like a Spock pinch and drove me to my knees. And it was at that point I executed my famous finishing move, my official finishing move, which is running from the ring, screaming in terror. But that was one of the ways that Vince was trying to get me back for the impression. But he's a genius. I mean, I've said this a number of times before. He is the P.T. Barnum of our age. He knows the product. He knows the audience. He knows what he's doing. And that's the reason why it's so successful. But he also happens to be a dick. He's a total dick. I mean, he's just impossible. He really is impossible. I mean, he could have offered me suggestions. He could have tried to do something, give me some advice, but he just kind of let me flounder, and figured that he'd kind of exploit that and make that, but it just never really worked. I mean, I had no problem being the whipping boy, if that was going to be the bit, that would be fine, because in my head I'm thinking, well, maybe I can turn it around and end up being a face, maybe treat me like a heel, and it turns into I'm trying to figure out ways that I could turn it around, but he really is just Iron Hand, man, Iron Hand, his way or the highway. And obviously it works, but we didn't really have the greatest rapport, I should say, because he's a dick.
It's interesting though. Like he doesn't give